Hello and welcome to Lab 1. This lab you will be setting up your lab environment. The environment that you will be using for the exercises will be the Zeppelin notebook, and the notebook comes from a Docker image that you will be able to pull from the Docker repository. If you are using a Windows operating system like I am, you will need to download boot to Docker. Go ahead and refer to the instructions listed on the Big Data University page on how to set up boot to Docker for your Windows operating system. If you're using a Linux OS, you will not need to do that, but there are also other instructions for you to get started. Once you have boot to Docker installed, go ahead and run the boot to Docker start. This will start up the VM and the Docker daemon as it is shown here. Note the IP address of the Docker VM. You will be using this to access the Zeppelin notebook later. It should be the same IP address. If not, just pay particular attention to what yours is. When the boot to Docker has loaded, you will be brought to the terminal. This means you are now ready to continue on with the lab exercise. Alternatively, when you need to start up your container, you can SSH into the Docker VM first and then execute the commands to start up the container. Here is my terminal that I use to access the Docker VM. I used PuTTY. The reason I'm using PuTTY instead of the boot to Docker terminal that I have here is because PuTTY allows me to copy and paste code directly into its terminal. It's just a little quicker for me to use. If you would like to use PuTTY, refer to the instructions in the lab guide on how to set that up. The login is Docker, and the password you will not be I'm sorry, I should say that again. The login is Docker and the password is a public key that you've imported with the configuration of PuTTY. So when you've done that, you don't need to provide a password. Once you're inside the Docker, you will execute the Docker run command. Again, these instructions are located on the Big Data University page for this particular course. You can copy and paste the command directly, and it will start up the container and load all the necessary services for the lab environment. Once everything has loaded, you'll notice at the very bottom that Zeppelin start is okay. This means your lab are now ready to go. I'm going to move these out of the way and bring the Zeppelin notebook into focus. Now remember, I said the IP address of the VM will be used, and this is where you're using it: 192.168.59.103. It should be the same for you. If not, go back to the original boot to Docker terminal and find the IP address. The port to the Zeppelin service is 8080. So put this into a web browser. I'm using Firefox here, and you will be brought to this Zeppelin notebook. Okay, so for the Zeppelin notebook, it's quite easy to use. In fact, you notice that there are individual lab links here. Another way to access the links, or the labs rather, is to click on the notebook drop down above and select the particular lab that you are interested in. So we're going to click on lab 1 to bring up lab 1's book, and basically in lab 1 you're just to verify that all the services are running properly. So there is a Spark interpreter built into this Zeppelin notebook so that you can run Spark commands directly. Here is the first task that you should do, is testing Spark on the cluster. It's just a basic loading of a text file and then doing some map operation on it, and then doing an action to count the number. And this is just to test that Spark runs. So go ahead and click on the play button. This will run the job. first job sometimes will take a while if the server has not been started completely, but evidently you should not get any type of error message, so that is what you're looking for, a clean run. This next button here will collapse and expand the code section, so you can see that I just toggled it. You can hide the code if you don't want to see it, or you can expand it. This next button to that, the icon like a book, will toggle the output display. I'm hiding it, I'm showing it again. So because this one is a basic command, you saw that it created the RDD and then did the count on it. So the file contains this many records. That's actually all you need to do for this particular lab, but just to point out that there are two additional tests that you would run if you were doing the more advanced Spark activities, and these are not included as part of this particular exercise. So you can ignore these for now. We don't have these services set up and running, but when we get to the more advanced concepts, you will be using these two.